Welcome back. Now, have you ever donated blood? Do you know that every year countries around the world celebrate World Blood Donor Day on the 14th of June to raise awareness of the need for safe blood and blood products? It's also a day set aside to thank voluntary, unpaid blood donors for their life-saving gifts of blood. For 2022, the World Blood Donor Day slogan is "Donating blood is an act of solidarity, join the effort and save lives." The need for blood is constant, however, demand isn't always met with availability.
Now joining us from the United Kingdom to further discuss the importance of blood donation is Bukola Bolariwa, who's the founder of Haima Health and is a passionate activist for blood donation. Thank you for joining us, Bukola, and thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Now, of course, through Haima Health, you are building a network of voluntary blood donors for safe, affordable, and quick access to blood. How easy or difficult has that been? Are there more Africans that are open to the idea of blood donation?
It's very challenging, I must say. I think that generally there's a misconception around blood donation in Nigeria. Oftentimes people are scared of the process, they are scared of the safety of the process, and generally people don't like to engage with the healthcare sector. But I think that we are making progress, and a lot of people, especially young people, now are often open to the idea of donating blood. So what we really need to do is to keep raising awareness and letting people know how safe the process is.
Absolutely, which is why you're here to help us raise awareness in that regard. I would believe that there are certain myths that surround blood donation that sort of limit people, from donating blood. So what are some of these myths surrounding blood donation? And let's burst them this morning.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Olive. I think the first one and the one we get the most is that I don't have enough blood. People say, oh, just by the way I feel, but actually it's not about how you look. It's not about your weight or your height or anything like that. In order to test if you have enough blood to give, there's a small test that you do to check your hemoglobin level. But there's also a lot of health screening that goes into it before you can donate blood. So there's a number of things we'll check, like your weight, for example. We'll check your blood pressure. We'll check that you don't have any pre-existing medical conditions, or you're not taking any medication at that particular time. As long as you're healthy and fit, most times you are able to donate blood. And then another misconception is that the process itself is very painful, but actually it's not. The only part that's slightly painful is when the needle goes into the vein, but that's just like a little prick. And once that goes in, there is no pain. The entire process is about 5 minutes for you to donate the blood. You rest for a little bit, excuse me, and you can go on with the rest of your day.
All right. We know also that there are certain requirements for who can donate blood, who can receive blood. You've told us here that you check the hemoglobin levels. So run us through who is eligible to be a blood donor and who needs or should be a blood recipient.
Yeah. So the first thing is that people that need blood are people like myself that have sickle cell disease. So usually people that have sickle cell disease need blood transfusions, sometimes quite regularly. And that's part of the reason that I got into this advocacy space. But people who are mothers who are having babies, for example, sometimes need blood, cancer patients, leukemia patients, and most importantly, accidents and emergencies. So we saw just like last week or a week and a half ago when there was a terrorist attack in Owo, and we had to also galvanize blood donors to actually go to the hospital, Federal Medical Center there, to try and donate blood to the victims of the attack. So in terms of accidents and emergencies, there's no replacement for blood. There's nothing else you can give apart from blood when people have lost blood at the moment. And so it's so vital for people and keeps people alive. In terms of eligibility, as long as you're over 18 and under 65, if you've never given blood before. So between the ages of 18 to 65, if you're healthy and you've not had any kind of serious pre-existing medical condition or not taking any particular medication at that time, you should be eligible. It's very easy to donate. You just sign up with us and we'll usually link you up with where you can donate when we're having our next blood drive.
Okay, I also want to, ask, about some of the misconceptions. There's people who believe that once they have tattoos, they can no longer ever donate blood? So quickly, share, your thoughts on that one. And also, is blood donation for everybody? Is every blood group eligible to donate, or is it just for those who are O positive or O plus?
No, so everybody can donate blood. In fact, that's why we encourage as many people as possible to donate blood, because certain people can only receive blood from certain groups. And so the more people donate, the more diverse the blood donor pool is. And so it means that if you have a rare blood group, for example, AB negative is one of the rarest blood groups. If you have more people donating, you're more likely to find your match within the donor pool. And in terms of removal criteria. So it used to be the case that if you had a tattoo, you could never donate, but that was because of the risk of hepatitis. But because of the improved safety of the tattooing process now in Nigeria, the law is that if you've had a tattoo, you should wait 6 months before you should donate blood, and that way any risk of hepatitis will show up before then.
All right. Let's talk about some of the advantages of blood donation, because we hear of the fact that we know that it's beneficial to the recipient, right? But what benefits await the person who's donating blood?
Yeah, I mean, the number one benefit is that there's the opportunity to save a life. Obviously, if you give 1 pint of blood, you have the opportunity to save 3 lives, because within each pint of blood, there are different components that can be used for different patients. So it can be like within that pint of blood, the platelets goes to one patient, the plasma goes to another patient, the red cells goes to another patient, and so on. And so blood itself produces different products that are used for different patients. And then the second thing is that you get a free health check. So like I've just said, when you come to donate blood, we're going to do a full health screening on you, and that way you get to know if there are any health challenges that you need to go and look at. And the second thing is that it helps you produce fresh blood. It allows you to keep your heart pumping. And then at the same time, it's great for weight loss, especially for people that are looking to lose weight and so on. So giving that extra pint of blood can help you towards that journey. But for the most important reason, benefit for the donor is actually the opportunity to help someone who needs it.
Are there any incentives like meat pie at the end of the donation process?
Yeah, for sure. Well, at least for our drives, every time we give, we have a drive, we'll definitely give you something, even if it's malt or even if it's, something to say thank you for coming, or a little mug or something to just say thank you for saving a life.
Okay, that's nice. Now, lead us through the process of preparing to donate blood, as well as the, pros and cons. I think you already spoke about that, but what's the process like?
Yes, I mean, for a donor, the main thing is that on that day, we require you to have a meal before you donate. So usually if you're coming the day, we'll ask you to have breakfast. If you haven't had breakfast, we'll give you something to eat. We'll make sure that you're very well hydrated before you give blood. After you're done with the process, we ask that you don't do any kind of rigorous activity like sports or football or anything like that. I remember we've gone to recruit blood donors at blood drives before, and they insist that, they want to play football after, but that's something that we always have to push back against. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that it's actually for your benefit to just rest, because you've lost some blood that particular day. So don't do anything strenuous. Before you come to donate, we ask that you don't drink alcohol, just because alcohol takes time to wash out of your bloodstream. You don't want to give your donor some of your drink from last night. So we ask that you abstain from drinking alcohol at least 24 hours before you come to give blood.
All right. This is quite an important conversation, and we're glad that you've joined us to talk about this. Now, when we talk about blood donation, we've talked about the fact that not a lot of people are very open to it. How can governments and institutions come together to ensure that we encourage blood donation? And also, in terms of accessibility, a lot of people have complained about the fact that this blood is donated for free. Why is it being sold in a lot of hospitals?
That's a great question, Olive, and I always want to address that every time we do publicity and advocacy. The first thing is that blood is not necessarily sold. The thing is that when you give, so if you, Olive, give me a pint of blood, You can't give it to me directly. It has to go through a series of processes and a series of tests. So the WHO has 7 recommended tests, which include HIV and hepatitis and so on, that the blood has to be screened for. And so each of those tests cost money. There's no, how the medical process is. There's no way it's going to be free. And the safety of blood is paramount. Nigeria has really made a lot of improvements when it comes to safety of blood. I don't know if you remember in the 90s, there used to be instances of people getting transfused with blood and, getting all sorts of infections from the blood that was transfused. And unfortunately for us, that's no longer the case because the standards have improved and the blood has to go through all these screening processes. And unfortunately, that cost usually has to be passed on to the patients because the Nigerian healthcare system is not free. So you have to look at blood as a medical input, the same way you look at oxygen. So if a patient takes oxygen in the hospital, we don't say, oh, there's air everywhere. Why is the oxygen not free? It's the same way if you give a patient medicine like malaria medicine or anything like that, we don't ask for that to be free. And so we need to look at blood as a medicine. It is a medical input and it does go through several processes and logistics and packaging. And, there's a lot of things that goes into blood before it's safe for the donor to use. And that's where the cost comes, unfortunately. So while I understand the frustration from certain people in the sense that they've given the blood for free, you always have to remember that as you give that blood is not how the patient receives it. It's gone through a series of processes.
Thank you very much, Bukola, for really expatiating on this. I think I had that idea that, and I'm sure that many people had that question on their minds as well. And it just makes sense how you've explained it. For those, we're hoping that there'll be more people who be encouraged to join the work that Hyma Health is doing and other blood donors around the world to push for blood, to, donating blood. Hopefully after the show today, it's just that yesterday I had a rigorous day. So I'm not sure I can donate today, but let's do that tomorrow. But thank you very much, Bukola Bolariwa, for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Take care.
All right.